Remember the first time you climbed into the driver's seat of a CMV? You were probably a little nervous to be driving a big rig, and you probably had some instruction on the proper way to enter the cab. That first time, chances are you were concentrating on doing it right with your instructor watching. But over time, climbing in and out of the cab has become routine, and your technique may have slipped a little. So let's review the safest procedure. Even the most seasoned veterans can stand a reminder from time to time. When you climb into your cab, you should always have 3 points of contact, both feet in one hand or both hands in one foot. With many cabs, starting with the correct foot is important because the footholds are designed to be used in a specific order. The steering wheel, seat, and door handles are not designed to be handholds. You want to choose handholds that will be stable enough to offer support if your foot slips or you miss a step. Footwear that offers adequate support and traction is important for safe entry and exit. Worn soles or oil on the bottoms of your shoes can make climbing treacherous. It's important to concentrate on what you're doing each time you climb into the cab. Thinking about other things or moving too fast may cause you to miss a step or lose your balance. Concentrating on the activity at hand and being aware of your head clearance as well will help prevent more than a headache. Exiting the cab also requires concentration. Always face the cab as you climb down. Don't treat the steps like a staircase. It's equally important to maintain 3 points of contact when you leave the cab. One very common cause of ankle, foot, and knee injuries is jumping out of the cab. You may be tempted to think it might be faster to simply open the door and jump down, but the risk of injury is definitely not worth the couple of seconds you save by jumping. When you mount an enclosed trailer or flatbed, use the same care you use when mounting a cab. Remember, 3 points of contact. When dismounting trailers or flatbeds, avoid the temptation to jump. While you may or may not be injured immediately, you increase the risk of long-term problems with your ankles, knees, and hips by subjecting them to the impact of leaping off and landing on a hard surface. That's a high price to pay for very little time saved. Office workers have learned that sitting in one position while working at a desk or a computer can lead to fatigue and joint problems, so they often make it a habit to change their position or to get up and stretch from time to time. When your office is the cab of a truck, the same things apply. It's just a little more difficult to change position. In order to minimize fatigue and joint stress, adjust your driving position properly. The height at which you sit, your distance from the wheel, your reach to the pedals and your reach to the shifter all have a bearing on your comfort as you drive and on your long-term health. Develop a routine so every time you enter the cab, you set up your driving position properly. Sit upright with your lower back in a position that allows the seat to support your lumbar or lower back area. Move the seat so that your hands rest on the wheel comfortably without having to stretch. Keep your hands at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock so you can use the large muscles of your shoulders and upper arms to do the work of steering rather than put pressure on your hands and wrists. This position should also give you straightforward access to the shifter without stretching or stressing your arm or wrist. When you're in the right position, all your joints should work easily rather than be stressed while you drive. Unfortunately, surveys indicate that as many as 25% of drivers don't wear their seatbelt. In addition to preventing you from going through the windshield, your seatbelt also holds you in place through all the bumps and vibrations of day-to-day driving. And speaking of vibration, you should be aware of the effects of the phenomenon called whole body vibration. As you're driving, your body is subjected to considerable shaking. The physical response to this is for your muscles to tense. After several hours behind the wheel, it's common to experience a certain amount of stiffness and lower back discomfort. Injuries can occur when you leave the driver's seat and immediately attempt another physical activity, like unloading or dropping the trailer. To minimize potential strains, it's a good idea to do what some of those office workers do. As soon as you exit the cab, stretch to recover from the stiffness caused by the combination of whole body vibration and inactivity. You'll feel better, and you'll be less likely to injure yourself in other activities. It's a rare driver who doesn't do some loading, unloading, or load securement. If this sounds like your job, you face some serious risks. Your safety begins with using personal protective equipment, or PPE. Depending on your particular situation, you may need gloves, steel-toe shoes, safety glasses, a hard hat, or high-visibility clothing. A pinched finger or scraped knuckle may not send you to the hospital, but a hand or finger injury can be extremely annoying. Every driver should have a good pair of protective leather or heavy canvas gloves. Cotton or fabric gloves won't do the job. And speaking of hand injuries, there are lots of points on a truck or trailer that can pinch, sever, or crush fingers and hands. One way to prevent these types of injuries is to identify risks before they become problems. As you do your walk-around inspection, consciously think about pinch, sever, and crush points. Cargo doors, too, can be hazardous if not approached carefully. If the cargo inside has shifted, you could be in real danger when you open the door. Shifted cargo can put pressure on the doors and the latch. When you open the door, this pressure can be released with surprising force. And when the wind is blowing, be especially careful as you open and close doors. A sudden gust of wind can catch a door, slamming it open or closed with unexpected impact. Often, walking on flatbed trailers or inside enclosed trailers is a necessity. Let's look at the potential hazards. If you're supervising loading or unloading with a forklift, make sure you can see the forklift driver and the driver can see you at all times. A forklift driver who travels from a well-lit area into a dark trailer may have difficulty seeing you. If you're behind the cargo when the forklift driver enters the trailer, he or she can't see you at all. The danger here is obvious, right? It's always safer to be at the side of a forklift rather than in front or in back of it. Use extreme care when you move in and out of a trailer. Stepping between the trailer and a dock is a common cause of serious injury. And be aware of your footing and of any open doors or gaps between the trailer and the dock. As with any job that involves lifting, back injury is a significant occupational hazard. This can take the form of strains and sprains, torn ligaments, muscle spasms, or damaged discs. A back injury can be sudden, like a ruptured disc, or it can be cumulative, as the result of repeatedly lifting the wrong way. Here are some guidelines for safe lifting that can save your back. Don't attempt to lift heavy items. If the time it takes to get help prevents a back injury, it's time well spent. You have nothing to prove trying to do it all on your own. Always lift with your legs, not your back. Your leg muscles are much bigger and stronger than your back muscles. Don't lift with a rounded back. This puts pressure on the discs between your vertebrae. Keep objects close to your body, which allows you to distribute the weight to your entire body, not just to your back alone. Don't reach away from your body to lift or grasp an object. Don't twist while you're lifting. If you have to move to one side or the other, move your feet to turn your body. Push an object rather than pull it. Pushing puts less strain on your back than pulling. Finally, use lifting devices. Loading docks often have a number of devices to aid lifting: forklifts, carts, and dollies. Taking the time to locate and use one of these devices may very well save you from a serious back injury. All drivers recognize that fatigue can increase the risks they face when driving. That's why hours spent behind the wheel are regulated. Study after study confirms that tired drivers are at higher risk than rested drivers. This concept also applies to non-driving risks. Fatigue can contribute to poor judgment and clumsiness that can lead to injuries. So if you're tired, it's all the more important to focus on the potential risks of cargo handling. We've all driven in weather that increases the risk for vehicle crashes. But too many forget that the weather can have an impact on the risk of a non-driving personal injury. In extremely hot weather, the risks are heat illness and dehydration. The first sign of heat illness is usually muscle cramps. The treatment is simple. Take a break, get to a cool area, and drink water or other fluids. Left untreated, heat illness can lead to a much more dangerous condition, heat exhaustion. Symptoms of heat exhaustion include sweating, paleness, fatigue, weakness, lightheadedness, nausea, or vomiting. When this occurs, it must be recognized and treated before it progresses to a life-threatening condition called heat stroke. Heat stroke can be accompanied by confusion, agitation, even seizures. People who experience the symptoms of heat exhaustion or heat stroke should immediately stop any physical activity, move to a cool area, and drink fluids to rehydrate. If you suspect that you or a coworker is experiencing heat stroke, treat it as a medical emergency with rapid cooling and medical assistance. Drivers who spend most of their time in cooler climates may not be prepared for the dangers of working in hot climates. So those who occasionally drive from north to south should be especially aware of the risks. Drinking plenty of fluids and taking breaks are the best ways to prevent dehydration and heat illness. Frostbite is most likely to affect areas of your body farthest from the heart: your hands, feet, nose, and ears. To prevent frostbite, you should first be aware of environmental conditions. If you're driving from a warm area to a cold area, plan accordingly. Bring an insulated coat, a hat that covers your ears, insulated gloves, and appropriate footwear. Another important piece of cold weather gear is a good pair of sunglasses. Light reflected off snow can be extremely bright. Sunglasses not only protect your eyes from this brightness, they can also protect your eyes from wind-blown snow. Snow and ice can make for treacherous walking and climbing. Before entering your cab, make sure that snow and ice have been removed from all steps and handholds. Snow and ice on trailers and loading docks can increase the hazards associated with loading and unloading. Just as you slow down while driving on snow or ice, you should slow down when walking and climbing in snowy or icy conditions. No doubt you've had some training on stopping safely along the road. Training is one thing, but when the pressure's on, safety doesn't always spring to mind. When you're stopped on the road, the biggest threat is other drivers. You want to be sure they can see you and you can see them. Wearing highly visible clothing is critical. If it's dark, wear reflective clothing and carry a flashlight. If you need your hands free, a light you can wear on your head or clip to your hat is helpful. Use extra care when exiting the cab. Always walk facing oncoming traffic. If your back is to traffic, you won't be able to see, much less avoid an inattentive driver. As you walk along your vehicle, have an escape plan in case you have to avoid an oncoming car or truck. Keep in mind that, as extreme as it may sound, diving under the trailer may be your safest route of escape. If you have to service something on the traffic side of a flatbed, you should climb on and off the trailer on the opposite side. It may take a little more time to walk around, but it's much less dangerous to work from the shoulder rather than the roadside of the trailer. When you return to the cab, it's best to walk all the way around the trailer rather than turn your back to oncoming traffic. By approaching the cab from the front of your vehicle, you minimize the risk. Few of you will experience a vehicle crash. However, statistics indicate that many more of you will miss work due to a non-driving on-the-job injury. Maybe you should ask yourself, when's a good time to have a sprained ankle? When's a good time to have a back injury? Ask yourself, is saving a minute or two worth preventing a pinched hand, a severed finger, or a frozen ear? Even if you don't suffer an immediate injury from unsafe work habits, chances are good that you'll suffer later in life. Believe me, I know. For example, poor lifting techniques or the cumulative impact of jumping out of or off your truck could lead to back or joint problems long after you've retired from driving. Making a personal commitment to recognizing risks and adopting safe practices is your best protection for preventing injuries today and averting the long-term consequences of unsafe work habits in the future. This commitment can keep you out of the hospital and on the job, and it can help ensure a long and rewarding career in this industry. Oh, dang it.